On this edition of WrestleHavoc Daily, we are going to be talking about the return of TNA Wrestling. Yes, Total Nonstop Action Wrestling is making a comeback as Impact Wrestling will once again rebrand into TNA Wrestling, beginning with their Hard To Kill pay-per-view this January. CM Punk was backstage at the recent Impact Wrestling tapings. What could that mean for his wrestling future? And could Will Ospreay signed with TNA, since come February 2024, he is going to be the hottest free agent in all of pro wrestling? All this and much more right here on the very first edition of WrestleHavoc Daily. What's up, everybody? It is Flamin' Ricky DeRays right here on the very first edition of WrestleHavoc Daily. It is Wednesday, October 25th. Of course, WrestleHavoc Daily is a new concept in which I discuss everyday daily news and rumors in the world of professional wrestling. And we had a lot of things go on in the world of professional wrestling, as, of course, Impact Wrestling recently had their Hard To Kill is their January pay-per-view, but they recently had their biggest show of the year, that being Bound for Glory in Chicago, and they dropped a bombshell at the end of the show in which they announced that Impact Wrestling will be reverting back to its original name, TNA Wrestling. Yes, Total Nonstop Action Wrestling is going to be making a return, and that is going to be the permanent name for Impact Wrestling coming this January, or I should say beginning this January. Everybody's freaking excited, and I'm going to be talking about it right here on the very first edition of WrestleHavoc Daily. In a press release from Anthem Sports and Entertainment, of course, a global media, multimedia platform or company, announced that today that its professional wrestling company, Impact Wrestling, is returning to its iconic Total Nonstop Action Wrestling name, TNA, at Hard To Kill, its first pay-per-view event of 2024, which will originate for the first time ever in the Palms Casino Resort in Las Vegas, Nevada. The announcement was made Saturday night at the end of the Bound for Glory pay-per-view, which aired live around the world in front of a standing room-only crowd in Chicago. TNA will launch in 2024 with Hard To Kill on Saturday, January 13th, with a second night of action-packed professional wrestling, the Snake Eyes Extravaganza Show, at the Palms on Sunday, January 14th. The Snake Eyes Extravaganza Show will tape to air on the company's flagship weekly television show, Impact, airing every Thursday on Access TV. In a quote by Scott D'Amore, he stated, and I quote, "We still hear the TNA chant everywhere we go. Fans have longed for TNA Wrestling, so that's why we are bringing it back in 2024. TNA Wrestling, we're back." Company officials confirmed that the new year will launch a new look TNA Wrestling that runs from the entrance ramp to turnbuckles in the ring to larger, more prestigious venues, and that's the key line there, more prestigious venues, and much, much more. Further details on the TNA Wrestling return will be revealed on Tuesday, October 24th, when Scott D'Amore sits down for an exclusive interview with Tom Hannafin that will air on Impact's live Facebook page starting at 12 noon Eastern, which he already did. And he answered a lot of questions. He talked about the six-sided ring, about if fans, want to see the six-sided ring. And unfortunately, he says we're not going to bring back the six-sided ring, but I will be talking about that later on. But the Q&A will include questions from worldwide pro wrestling media. TNA Wrestling launched in the summer of 2002 and has been known as the most innovative professional wrestling company in the world. TNA is known for its high-risk, action-packed X-Division matches that have a run with one simple motto: it's not about weight limits, it's about no limits. Stars of the X-Division have included Chris Sabin with a record 10 title reigns, AJ Styles, the first ever champion, along with Jay Lethal, Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels, Petey Williams, Frankie Kazarian, Trey Miguel, and others. TNA is also the home of the prestigious Knockouts division, widely regarded as the best women's division in all of professional wrestling. The Knockouts division features Trinity, Deonna Purrazzo, Mickie James, Jordan Grace, Giselle Shaw, Masha Slamovich, Kylan King, Jessica, and Courtney Rush, among others. Legendary past Knockouts include Gail Kim, Awesome Kong, The Beautiful People, Ty Valkyrie, ODB, Tara, Tracy Brooks, and so many others. So that was the press release that Impact Wrestling put out on the return of TNA Wrestling. What are my thoughts on this? I think this is great. I remember when they first announced this now, I was planning on watching Bound for Glory, but I ended up not watching the show. I heard a lot of great things about the show. I heard Will Ospreay and Mike Bailey put on a fucking classic. I've seen Mike Bailey live in person. He's absolutely unbelievable. Will Ospreay is arguably the best wrestler in the world today. And they had a lot of other things happen on the show. Of course, Alex Shelley retained his Impact World Championship. I believe he did wrestle Josh Alexander. Impact, the company, it's crazy how the company has really, how do I put it in perspective? The company has really recovered from all of the negative stigma that it has had for the past couple of years. Because if you think about it, TNA, beginning roughly around 2014, that was when they really started to go downhill. I mean, fans could argue they started to go downhill when they brought in Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff and all that stuff. I could argue they started to go downhill roughly around 2009. The heyday, the prime years, in my opinion, of TNA was 2005 to at least 2008. That was kind of the prime of TNA. Some fans could argue it was 2005 to 2010. 2010 was roughly their peak, but I could argue that 2010 was really where they started to go downhill because they brought in Hulk Hogan, Eric Bischoff, and they really stripped away everything that made TNA special in the first place. So those are my thoughts on that. But nonetheless, TNA had a big negative stigma behind it, especially in the later years, of course, in 2014, when they got canceled, and rightfully so, off of Spike TV. If you guys do not remember, TNA secretly hired Vince Russo, and the network did not want Vince Russo to be a part of TNA, a part of creative and all that stuff, and he accidentally sent a email to Mike Johnson of PW Insider, and then he lied and all that crazy shit, which led to the cancellation of Impact on Spike. Then they went to Destination America, and then they went to Pop TV. They literally moved to like 3 networks in a span of like 3 years, which is embarrassing to say the least. They had a shit ton of money problems when Panda Energy pulled out. Really bad money problems, especially in 2016. Billy Corgan came in. He loaned TNA some money, and then all of a sudden he sued TNA after they were secretly running the company behind his back. A lot of crazy shit happened with the company. And then, of course, Anthem purchased the company, and then they were strictly rebranded as Impact Wrestling. Then they brought in Jeff Jarrett because he had Global Force Wrestling, and then they merged it into GFW, and then that fell through, and they rebranded back to Impact Wrestling. So Impact was really going through a rocky road during that period of time. But in the later years, Impact really started to, in a way, kind of gain steam. I didn't watch a lot of the product, but I know a lot of fans have been saying, look, I know a lot of people have given up on Impact Wrestling recently, but man, they have changed. It's not what the old regime was. The new regime is doing everything right. They're doing phenomenal stuff. And I've seen some of the stuff that Impact Wrestling has been putting out, and it's safe to say that they have been putting on great shows. And honestly, them reverting back to TNA, there is pros and cons. Of course, the biggest con is the negative stigma behind TNA, not only because of everything that went down when they were still called TNA in the mid-2010s with all the money issues and Dixie Carter and all that, but also the fact that, of course, the initials TNA, usually non-wrestling fans will know TNA as something a little inappropriate, which you guys know, tits and ass. But I think in our current society in 2023, I don't think people view it like that anymore. That's my opinion, at least. But there are pros and cons. You can't. What are the situation with sponsors? Like, if you want to get sponsors, your company's name is called TNA Wrestling. I mean, it's very weird. It's very weird to say the least. But the pros is that the company is such in a much better place right now. It's not going to be number 2. A lot of fans on the internet, especially WWE fans, immediately jumped the gun and were like, haha, TNA is taking over the number 2 spot in professional wrestling. That is a fucking lie. TNA is at least, right now, as it stands, the number 3 promotion. And another thing is, if they want to make all these changes, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, this is just a rebranding. So really, if you're doing just a rebranding, what was the point of all of the hype if everything is going to be exactly the same? Yeah, you can change everything from production and, presentation, but what more are you going to offer? And I think that is the biggest takeaway that I can give every one of you guys right here talking about TNA. what else are they going to offer? They are on Access TV. Let's be brutally honest with ourselves. Access TV, a lot of people do not have that fucking network. I have Optimum. I do not have Access TV at all. I used to have Dish Network where I did have Access TV, but now I don't. I have Optimum. I do not have Access TV whatsoever. And there's many different ways that you can get Impact. You know, via their YouTube channel, you can watch Impact via a membership from their YouTube channel, I believe. So, I mean, there are many different ways to watch Impact, but if you really want to appeal to a large audience, you need to get your ass off of Access TV now. Anthem did buy Access TV. That is why, and that is the only reason that they are on Access TV. But still, you need to get their ass off of Access TV and go on a larger platform. If Billy Corgan can put the NWA on the CW network, there's no excuse for why Anthem can't put TNA or, you know, basically shop around TNA on a particular network, maybe Paramount Network. I don't know. There's so many different networks right now, but you have to like shop TNA around if you really, really, really want to grow this thing. And if you really want to grow this thing, you have to sign top names. And that is where we're going to be talking about CM Punk, because CM Punk is in the news, and CM Punk was apparently at the Impact Wrestling tapings. According to House of Wrestling has learned that while Punk was not at Bound for Glory, he did attend the Impact Wrestling on Access TV tapings from that following day. Also at the Cicero Stadium, we're told that the Second City Saviors showed up just before the tapings began, around 6:30 p.m., and was taken into the locker room area. Punk attended an Impact event this past April, and it created a lot of attention as he was still off of AEW television following his all-out media scrum incident. This time, to avoid a scene, he showed up closer to bell time, and due to the sun setting earlier this time of year, arrived when it was dark outside. While backstage, House of Wrestling was told that Punk was talking with anyone who wanted to get some time with him, including quote-unquote key Impact talent that he spoke to throughout the taping. Since he had attended a taping earlier this year, we are told that his presence did not faze any of the talent, as they were more used to his presence. One person that we are told did not get to spend so much time was with Ace Steel, who was also served as a producer at the post-Bound for Glory Impact television taping. So I believe now Ace Steel is working as a producer for Impact Wrestling. So that is a keynote, because if you think about it, Ace Steel is he was basically the key component of producing all of CM Punk's segments in AEW. We were told that Steel was warmly received backstage and seemed very happy to be back at work. CM Punk, I mean, it's very interesting. Now, if they want to bring back CM Punk, or not bring back CM Punk, well, technically bring back CM Punk, because CM Punk was in TNA for like a short amount of time in 2002, I believe. He was only there for a short amount of time, and then he went back to the independents. But still, what's interesting about this is if they ever got the chance to sign CM Punk, because at the end of the day, I do believe CM Punk is on his way back to the WWE. I think it's pretty obvious that he's going to make his return to World Wrestling Entertainment at Survivor Series, because Survivor Series is in Chicago, and they recently opened up more seats for Survivor Series, which is absolutely insane to think. Now, that's not because of CM Punk. It's because of the fact that the WWE is just so hot right now. Like, it's unbelievable, when the company is just on a different level right now. It's great to see. But still, you know, Impact signing CM Punk, it's not really far-fetched. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say this. CM Punk, if he signed with Impact, I'd be more shocked if CM Punk signed with TNA than he would show up at Survivor Series. Like, I think him showing up in WWE, you know, returning to WWE after like 9 or 10 years would be a huge deal, and it is a big deal. If you think it's not a big deal, then you're clearly fooling yourself. CM Punk returning to the WWE is 100% a big deal, but it's not going to be the first dance. It's not going to be his return to professional wrestling, because we've already seen that 2 years ago at the United Center. That was a big deal. If anything, that was a much bigger deal than what anything is going to happen further on down the line with CM Punk. But still, I do believe CM Punk is on his way back to the WWE, but you have to ask yourself this question. Does WWE need CM Punk? The answer is very simple. No, they do not need CM Punk, because WWE is in peak business right now. They're selling out every single event every single pay-per-view. They just announced a pay-per-view in Merlin, Germany, next year, which is going to be absolutely huge. They're planning on taking Backlash to Paris, which is insane. They're going to all these different international markets. They do not need CM Punk. The brand value of WWE right now is at an all-time high. It just is. And if you don't believe me, clearly you are in denial. You are unfortunately in denial. But the brand equity of WWE, the name brand of WWE is hot right now. They are the hottest. They're literally the hottest promotion in all of wrestling. It's very different. 2 years ago, AEW was hot, but now WWE is on a different level. But still, WWE does not need CM Punk. CM Punk needs WWE. So that's my thoughts on that. But we got an update from Fightful Select. CM Punk and Will Ospreay, could they cross the line? Fightful reported recently that while it was clearly a long shot, Impact Wrestling and those associated with it were open to him coming to the company. Punk appeared backstage months ago and made a good impression on many there and got along with a number of people on the roster, seemingly enjoyed his time there. As House of Wrestling reported, Punk was backstage at Sunday's Impact Wrestling tapings and was seen very helpful. Ace Steel was brought into the company to work as a producer, which saw many as a sign that the company wanted to get Punk. However, Impact had been interested in Steel when he'd been let go from AEW the first go-around and when Punk wasn't available. A few weeks ago, those close to Punk claimed that they didn't think that he wanted to join the company, but also said that if he woke up one day and just decided he wanted to wrestle Josh Alexander or the Motor City Machine Guns, he likely could if he wanted to, with another person in touch, with Punk saying he would under the right circumstances. Now, that's the key thing, under the right circumstances. Now, Anthem, I assume, is a multi-million-dollar company. It's not as small as people make it out to be. And the reason why I know this is I remember there was a story a couple years ago, and I believe this was roughly around the summer of 2018. Correct me if I'm wrong. And this was roughly before the AEW rumors even started about the company starting. Impact tried to sign Chris Jericho. If you guys do not recall, Impact did try to sign Chris Jericho. And apparently it was like a big money contract that Chris Jericho was offered. Anthem has the money. Anthem, if you guys are saying that Anthem does not have the money, you're lying. Anthem does have the money. It's just they don't have like WWE or AEW money, but they have money. And if they wanted to spend the money on CM Punk, they could. So under the right circumstances, that is a very interesting line that Fightful put out. A big hurdle on the surface and the outside looking in would be the salary, as Punk and AEW was annually making about 15 to 20 times what a lot of top Impact wrestlers were making. Speaking of TNA Wrestling and money, and this is the next story and the next wrestler we're going to be talking about, Will Ospreay had a very positive experience in Chicago this weekend at Impact Wrestling shows and noted that he wanted to come back before his New Japan Pro Wrestling deal is up in February. We're told by several that Will Ospreay's next contract will likely be heavily financially motivated, as he has realized that this will be the most important deal of his career. Earlier this year, he had been keen on staying with New Japan Pro Wrestling, but he's since opened up his options. He hired, now this is another important line right here. He hired Barry Bloom in the spring of this year, and AEW and WWE were aware of it by August. So Will Ospreay has signed Barry Bloom, and he has hired Barry Bloom as his representative. If you guys do not know who Barry Bloom is responsible for guys like Kenny Omega, Hangman Page, the Young Bucks, those guys getting their big money extensions with AEW because the Elite did sign new deals, and Barry Bloom was responsible for that. And I do believe he also represents Chris Jericho as well. So Will Ospreay hiring Barry Bloom, you can tell this contract is going to be a big money deal. Now, the bigger question is could Will Ospreay sign with TNA as the company starts or the company relaunches in January at the Hard To Kill pay-per-view? I don't know. Again, if he hired Barry Bloom, then clearly I think the only options are either WWE or AEW. Those are the only two logical options in my opinion, because those are the only two promotions that could easily give Will Ospreay the amount of money that he wants. Because at the end of the day, Come February, Will Ospreay is going to be the hottest free agent in all of pro wrestling. You are lying to yourself if you're saying that WWE does not want a guy like Will Ospreay. Clearly, they want somebody like Will Ospreay. So it would make total sense if WWE ever signed Will Ospreay. My prediction is I think he will sign with AEW at the end of the day, knowing from his experience, and his experience in AEW has been tremendous. I mean, for fuck's sakes, he wrestled in Wembley Stadium, for God's sakes, and they're returning to Wembley Stadium. You don't think Tony Khan wants Will Ospreay to wrestle once again at the All In show next year? We're going to have to wait and see what happens, but a lot of very interesting developments regarding TNA. Could TNA sign CM Punk and Will Ospreay? If that is the case, then they're going to have to sign him to big money deals. But at the same time, does Anthem, is Anthem willing to spend all of the money for them? We're going to have to wait and see, but it'd be huge if they signed Will Ospreay and CM Punk. But my prediction is I think CM Punk will be making his way back to WWE, and I do believe that Will Ospreay will be on his way to AEW. But yeah, that was the very first edition of WrestleHavoc Daily from Wednesday, October 25th, 2023. Of course, this is going to be a daily show where I discuss the latest news and rumors regarding professional wrestling, regarding WWE, AEW, and now TNA, as they're planning on coming back this January with the Hard To Kill pay-per-view. So as always, please like, subscribe, comment down below. Push that bell for notifications and be on the lookout for more videos right here on WrestleHavoc, on the WrestleHavoc channel, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And as the friggin' referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. And as always, it is Flamin' Ricky DeRays, signing out. I'll see you guys later. Peace.